Hi guys, welcome to DevOps School. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn about Ansible network modules. Ansible network modules can configure your network state, test and validate existing network state, and discover and correct network configuration drift. After going through this tutorial, I promise you that the concept and understanding of Ansible will be absolutely clear to you. This series divided into multiple parts, therefore subscribe to the channel and follow the playlist.
But before that, let me ask you a few things. Are you dreaming of a career with higher pay and more responsibilities? Or are you ready to take your skills to the next level this year? Then start investing in DevOps School certification level courses which will help you to emerge skills for a wide range of entry-level roles and as well as higher potential future positions. But with thousands of courses online and in classroom worldwide, finding the right one for your career goals can be difficult. You can consider our courses like Agile Developer, Agile QA, DevOps Certified Professionals, Site Reliability Engineering, DevSecOps, and Masters in DevOps Engineering, where you will have access to well-structured, easy-to-follow course content that has been developed and will be delivered by industry professionals. You can join on our training programs globally through online platforms, and if you are looking for classroom workshops, then we have regular sessions available in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi NCR, Mumbai, and in Pune. Simply compare our many courses, find the one that suits your style and schedule best, and start today.
Hypervisor.
Yeah. So guys, hypervisor is one application. See here, hypervisor is one application. Hypervisor can manage CPU, RAM, storage. Now hypervisor is application. So yes, Ansible can manage hypervisor. And in the world of virtualization, everything, when you say CPU, RAM, and storage, is just a file. Is just a file. So Ansible can manage file. So Ansible can manage hypervisor, CPU, RAM, and storage. So yes, in short, let's understand that. What is Ansible? So everyone call it configuration management tool, but we need to know what is configuration management. Then we got to know, okay, we are talking about nothing but servers configuration management. The next thing is what is there in the server? In the server you have this one. So we manage, see, Ansible manage configuration of these and these through files only, these in server. Okay, in the server. That's the reason we call it Ansible is a configuration management tool. Did you understand that what is Ansible? So if anyone asks you what is Ansible, you will be able to tell. You'll be able to tell.
Yeah.
Now, why Ansible? Here I gave you the broader picture of it with the context of big picture. But here we have to talk about why Ansible. Here, why Ansible? Because it can deploy, when I say deploy or change, because many people like to use many things. So all the keywords I'm adding here. It can deploy, or it can change, or it can config. Whatever you love, you can use it, no problem. Can do in multiple server parallel. This is the reason we use the Ansible. Okay, Ansible is easy to learn, share, debug, test, extend. Means if you want to extend, compared to all programming language which you know, for example Java, .NET, and stuff like that. It's easy. It's a DSL language. DSL. It's a DSL, domain specific language. So if you want to use, why we should use Ansible? Because this can be done by any programming languages, but Ansible is easy. It's easy compared to all this. That's the reason we are using. Ansible is platform independent also. It can work in any operating system, Linux, Windows, all flavor of Linux it can work with. Now Ansible is idempotent also. This is the reason we are using. Now you have to tell me what is idempotent. We have many engineers who's from anything as a service here. So you tell me what is idempotent. And this feature is common nowadays in many tools actually.
We can execute at a n number of times. It will have the same configuration as it is.
Right, yes, that's correct. What he's saying, you execute Ansible 10 times, but the results will be same. For example, I'll put it in a simple other way, my definition. See here, there are 10 steps in one deployment. And there are many places you might find the spelling mistakes. Please ignore it. For time being, I'm not focusing too much on each word. So there are 10 steps. Okay. Each steps take 1 minute. So it will take 10 minutes. Right. And if you do deploy through, let's say shell scripting or anything, so it will take 10 minutes, 10 steps. Out of it, other programming languages, or let's say first deployment. First deployment you are doing through the Ansible, first deployment. So 10 steps, 10 minutes. But if you do the second deployment, in the second deployment, there's only 2 steps got changed, remaining is same. So in this case, only 2 will execute, So how much time it should take? As per the rule of idempotent, 2 minutes. Simple. So you saved 8 minutes. So what I am trying to tell you, Ansible has an inbuilt capability, that's the inbuilt property, to check before doing the things if it has it done or not. Let's say I'll put it in this way. You want to start the service after doing some changes. So Ansible will check, is this the service already running? Then why to start it? Waste of my time. Don't start it. Okay. If the service is already available, don't start it. Don't start it. Leave it. Skip it. So that kind of property you won't find in the shell scripting or scripting which is written using Python, Perl, Java, Shell, whatever it is, PowerShell. You have in Ansible. So this is the same feature you can find in the Terraform, Ansible, Puppet, Chef, the CloudFormation, Azure RM. So all these things you will find this property. Before running, they will check, is it really done? Not done, then do the changes. If it is done, don't do that. So you check the resources in each server. Yes, this feature of checking the resources before doing it is called idempotent. Very powerful functionality. Did you understand this? Did you understand this?
Yeah, we got it.
So yes, guys, there are so many other benefits are also there, like a business benefit for CEO and CTO. I will not talk about this one because we are engineers. Let's stick to the engineering topics only. So yes, cost benefit, speed up of deployment, saving time, this, that, and all we have anyways. So now, guys, yes, we discuss about what is Ansible, and then we discuss why Ansible. Before going into the how Ansible, let me complete that. This is a tool from Red Hat. By the way, Red Hat also got acquired by some company, I think IBM or something. Okay, this tool is written in Python. Okay, written in Python. They have a 2 release basically. One is community release, one is enterprise release. Community release is a command line. Okay, that means you can work with the command line. Same feature. Here command line plus GUI. What we call it? This we call it Ansible. This we call it Tower. Okay. Now this is free. This is open source. Sorry. This is a paid. Okay. So this is the release, difference between the two release. I'll teach you both, okay, by the way. And what else? So, yep, powered by you know why Ansible we are all are learning? Because of this reason only. It's not about Ansible is the only tool which can do the change management, configuration management and all. No, we have so many tools, but this is something make it very popular. Ansible make it very popular. What is that? Modules and roles. No. Ansible is not agentless. By the way, many people say agentless. It's not agentless at all. Okay. If you want to know why it is not agentless, according to me, then you have to stay till this topic, how Ansible works. Okay. And you decide whether it's agentless or not, not me. Okay. So powered by thousands of modules and roles. Now, what is the modules? I'll teach you anyways. And what is the roles? I'll teach you. But these are the reasons for that Ansible is popular. Okay, guys. So now more or less we discuss about what is Ansible, what is the configuration management with respect to Ansible, and why Ansible. Any questions before hitting to the topic, which is how Ansible?
Rajesh,
Now-
you said Ansible is an configuration management tool. Can we use this for orchestration purpose?
Yes, we can use. Let me tell you here. See here. A similar way, Ansible can talk to hypervisor. So Ansible can talk to not hypervisor. When I was trying to tell you, Ansible can talk to any packages, any application, and that package will do the orchestration. Okay. So if you think Ansible has that feature, no, but Ansible can talk to n number of tools. Yes. So that way, yeah, you can do that. So which one you are using for orchestration? Cloud,
Public cloud,
AWS. Yeah. So
Azure.
Ansible can talk to any tools. I mean any applications. And for this, AWS is one platform. So Ansible will talk to the AWS, and AWS will do that thing for you. But instruction will be given by Ansible. So that is possible anywhere.
Okay, got it.
So that's the reason. No, here you have 4,000 modules. Where is that? Yeah, all these things make it possible because of that modules. But Ansible has no property as such to manage your platform. Ansible will outsource this work to someone else. Guys, any other questions?
No, I think.
Okay. So I think if you do not have any questions, then we are done with the introduction part. So now you know what is a DevOps, where DevOps stands, and why Ansible is playing a good role in DevOps, and all this thing. So now next question is how Ansible works. So before that, let's have one.
Rajesh, it's 11, Rajesh.
Yeah, I was talking about, yes. Even I need it actually, to be honest. I need to go to restroom. So that's the reason I was looking at my watch all the time. So yeah, so yes, so let's have a 15 minutes of break, 1-5, not 5-0, and we'll again come back and then we'll resume that next question, which is called how Ansible. Okay. Okay for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, then see you for after 15 minutes. Bye. Subhash, can you pause the recording?
Yes.
So now, next question is how Ansible works. More or less, it's like architecture. Okay. So here, in Ansible, we have a one component, and that is very important, human. Okay, so human interact with ACS, and ACS interact with ARS. Now, what is a human? I'm not going to define because you know that. And here, what is ACS called? For Ansible Control Server. And ARS, what is stand for? Ansible Remote Server. So let's have some visualization. So probably we'll get it.
Rajesh, are you typing something in the notepad? Because we are not able to see.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not able to see. It's freezed in
sharing
the
my
same
screen.
screen.
Yeah, it
Yes.
looks like it's freezed. Yeah.
Okay. Let me share one more time. What you are seeing right now?
Yep, now we can able to see.
MS Paint, right?
Yeah, MS Paint. Yeah.
So here, what we have, this is us, and we connect to the ACS. This is ACS. On ACS parallelly connected to multiple ARS. These are the parallel ARS. ARS, this is the ARS. Okay. So ACS we have one, ARS can be multiple. This is the server where we want to deploy change management you want to do. Anything you want to do, you do that in this server. Okay. So now let's talk about it. Humans should know what? Commands. Okay. That's all. Ansible commands. What are the commands? I'll show you that later point of the time once I show you the demo. First understand that. And ACS, it has to be Linux only. Okay, it has to be Linux, and it is a 64-bit. Okay, it has to be Linux, and it has to be 64-bit. Whereas in ARS, it can be anything, Windows, Linux, anything, and it can be anything in terms of bit. Also, it can be anything. Okay, so there is no as such specification. Here it can be Windows, it can be Linux. Now ACS, you should be having Ansible installed. Okay, here in ARS nothing should be installed. Okay, that means in Ansible ARS you should not be having, but real things start from here, and that's the reason you call it's a agentless, by the way, because ARS Ansible remote server is having nothing installed. That's the reason you call it, but actual real things start from here. When it is ARS is Windows, then you need to have a few things which is important. If these few things is not there, then ARS will not work, and that is .NET and plus one thing, WinRM. Okay, why? Because why? Because Ansible connect, ACS connect to the Windows machine through WinRM. WinRM and protocol which is called HTTP. When ARS is Linux, then it connect through the SSH and protocol is SSH only. Okay, so this is the difference. So here ACS, when it connect to the Windows ARS, then WinRM protocol, WinRM tool protocol HTTP, and ACS when they connect to the Linux machine of Windows ARS, Linux machine of ARS, then SSH protocol, SSH method. So that's the reason. When ARS in Windows, then you need to have a .NET and WinRM. But when it is a Linux, then it has to be SSH and Python. Yes, that's true. SSH and Python. Okay. And one more thing which I must write it, I'll forget it. PowerShell. Now what happens is, because all the Windows nowadays, after 2016 onwards, all the Windows comes with the WinRM, and earlier Windows they used to come with the .NET and PowerShell. So because of this, you are not installing anything new which is already available. Okay, already available. So that is the reason we call it agentless. Ansible is agentless. But just remember, if you do not have this one, Ansible will not work. If do not have WinRM running, Ansible will not be able to connect. So it's a preconditional. So we cannot say agentless in real way. In Linux, you see nowadays any flavor of Linux you see, when you experience it, SSH by default you get it, Python by default you get it. It comes along with every operating system of Linux. So that is the reason we say, Ansible is agentless. But it's up to you how you view. If your operating system SSH is not there, Python will not there, ACS will not be able to connect with ARS. In your Windows, if these are not there, ACS will not be able to connect to ARS. So did you understand that why we call it agentless, why we call it not agentless? Make sense?
Yeah. Yes, Rajesh.
Okay. So now let's move on. So we have understood how Ansible works. Now next thing is, what is our role in Ansible? What is a role? In Ansible also there are two roles actually.
Rajesh, I think you said before break that you are going to explain about how modules are running in the how
Yes.
Ansible works. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. How modules are running, that is pending, right? I have not discussed modules, so how modules is running I'm not talking.
No. Okay.
I have not discussed module, right? There's no module as such right now in my discussion. Correct, na?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So modules, when I bring that module, then I'll talk about the how module. Got it?
Rajesh, thank you.
Yeah. So now the question is, what is our role? What are the roles we have in Ansible? Like each one of us has joined this one. What do you want to do? So here we have a two role, dev role, QA role. Okay, dev and QA. Okay. So what is a dev Ansible development? What is a, sorry, not QA, admin. What is a Ansible development? Because here dev engineering with dev and QA together. and admin operations, whatever you want to call it, is up to you. Okay, so what is the role of dev? So basically, role of dev, I don't know. What is the role of Ansible dev? I don't know. But I am asking you, let's say you want to become a developer. How you want to become a developer? Can you tell me? Become a Java developer or .NET developer or anything. How can you become a developer? Let's say you are just got into the college. So tell me step by step how to become Java, .NET, C, C++ developer. First thing and last thing, one by one. Tell me what we do.
I'll have to learn Java first.
Okay, before that you do something else also. Remember your college time. I collected, by the way, I collected out of 4 months, I collected 3 months only CDs of Java. But after that you do something.
Before
You
learning
not
Java,
install
you need to know the OOPS concept.
No, but did you not install Java JDK? Correct. First thing, I'll tell you my story. We had a trimester concept, so 4 months. So out of 4 months, 3 months, I collected CDs of Java. And then in the last 1 month, 25 days, I installed JDK 3 or 4, I don't remember. I think 4 only. So JDK 4, I installed it. And after that, I left once again 25 days. So installation I did, and then I left again for 5 days. Just before exams, let's say 2-3 days is there. Then after that, we started learning Java. So when you start learning Java, so when we write a programs, we write a programs in what language? What file? What extension of file? Anyone? Anyone? So Java program is stored in some files, right?
Java.
What? Yeah, .java. .java. Let's say .c, .cpp, .python, .p, Perl, right? So any programming language, PL, sorry, not Perl. Perl is not an extension. PL. Okay. So any programming language which you store that file .java. So yes, I also did store the file in .java. But what we did, hello world programs, stored it. And then after that, when I compiled this program, then we got a .class file, didn't we? Or .object file in CPP, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So any programming language process is almost same actually. Okay. Now, important thing is here we started learning Java. So guys, which are the things you learned in any programming? I'm talking about Java only alone. Any programming language. What are the things you learn? You tell me from start, but you tell me if you can recall. Or maybe some of you must be developers now itself. So tell me, first thing, what you do, what you will teach to your junior, or what you have learned as a process to become a Java developer, or any other developers also.
Syntax, variables.
Variables. First we learn variables, different kind of variables.
Declaration and
initialization. Yeah. Then we learn operators.
Thanks for watching. To watch our complete session, enroll for our premium membership. Click onto the join button and enroll yourself with the best suited option.